is incredibly rare for criminal defendants to take the stand.
Real suspects accused of murder.
It's a high-stakes gamble. Very few take.
Delivering real testimony in their own defense.
You acquired the knife and the zip ties.
Never leave home without them.
Will they stand the pressure or fold under oath?
You put the gun bitches from his head.
Looks like extreme planning.
It was an accident.
An A&E original series, Under Oath. Wednesday, June 2nd at 10, only on A&E.
Dan, good morning. Jeff in Las Vegas.
Hi, Jeff.
Good to see you again, buddy. How you been?
I'm well. Thanks for having me back.
My pleasure. Excited to talk about your new series, Under Oath. You know, it showcases what most defendants must never do. They take the stand in their own defense. And I've seen enough episodes of Perry Mason, without dating myself, I hope, that you never do that.
Right. It's rare for a criminal defendant, particularly a murder defendant, to take the witness stand in his or her own defense. And that's why I think that this series is so compelling, is that every episode is another defendant who took the witness stand in his or her own defense. And we provide the context around it, what the prosecutor's thinking, what the defense is thinking. But it's not just your typical, crime story unfolding. It's all through the lens of the fact that the defendant is testifying.
Yeah, because each episode covers the gamut of the courtroom experience from start to finish. And I think even the most, unexperienced legal person in watching is saying to themselves, why would you even open your mouth? Why would you even take that risk? And I'm sure their attorneys were going crazy.
Yeah, there are certain cases where it actually makes a lot of sense. I mean, particularly in, for example, self-defense cases, right? Where someone is saying, yes, I did it, but here's why. I think in those cases in particular, it's very hard to think about how a defendant's going to get an acquittal without testifying. In those kinds of cases. But look, there are other cases where someone's just getting on the witness stand and saying, I didn't do it. It's not me. I don't know what to tell you. So, I think as you rightly point out, most defendants want to take the stand, right? They say that they want to explain their side of the story. And most of the time their lawyers convince them that's a very bad idea. But these are the cases where lawyer and defendant agreed that it would be a good idea. And in some cases they were right, and in some cases they were not.
And in your experience as an attorney, we know never to take the stand, as a defendant. But what about the other extreme, someone who defends themselves? In your experience and career, have you ever seen anyone say, Your Honor, I wish to represent myself, like you see in the movies? Yeah. Really?
Yeah, I've covered a number of cases where defendants have represented themselves. And there was one case where it actually was effective. And I think it kind of worked. And in every other one, I think it hurt the defendant more. I mean, think about it. I remember there was a case of a guy who'd shot a bunch of people on a train. And he was asking questions about, well, the man you saw, you say did X, Y, and Z. And the witness says, yeah, when you shot me, I this and this and that. And when you shot me, and it's like, this isn't helping your case, Colin Ferguson. So
that worked in that case. In this series, you have exclusive interviews and responses from the defendants themselves and everyone involved with the cases. Was it easy to get them to come onto the show? Because some of these cases are pretty sensitive.
Well, look, so the defendants in these cases, there are only a couple of instances where the defendant themselves agreed to an interview. So we have the footage from their testimony at the trial, but it is the lawyers and the jurors and the family members who talk about what it was like to be in the courtroom as the defendant was testifying. And I think that adds to the compelling nature of the program.
If you're not busy enough, you have a new book coming out, Kennedy's Avenger, about Jack Ruby, which I think is one of the most undertold stories in the 20th century. So tell me about that book.
Exactly. It is, right? I mean, everyone knows that Oswald shot Kennedy. Many people know that Jack Ruby on live television shoots Oswald. But then what happened to the trial of Jack Ruby? He died an innocent man. And yet, what happened? We have the transcript of the trial. We dig in deep, and there were celebrity witnesses. And there was a celebrity lawyer, and the world was watching, and the international media was there. and it's just a super compelling case. And as you point out, it is largely forgotten to history. So we dig in Kennedy's Avenger on the forgotten trial of Jack Ruby, which actually, by the way, spawned a lot of the Kennedy conspiracies as well.
And researching this book, did you find any revelations, something that readers will have to check out?
Well, look, I think that the details of why Jack Ruby, in my view, could not have been part of a conspiracy is probably the thing that was most enlightening to me. Because I went into this thinking to myself, I've always been interested in whether the conspiracy could be real. And putting aside Oswald for a minute, just Jack Ruby, based on the timing of when he shot Oswald, makes it such that it would have been basically impossible for him to have been plotting it. That Oswald was supposed to be moved at 10 in the morning, and that's when the media had arrived. And Jack Ruby woke up late, and at 11:17 across the street is at a Western Union, getting a receipt from being there. He then walks across the street to the police station, and literally within 30 seconds, Oswald is moved. And it just happens that Jack Ruby's there. So the point is, if Jack Ruby was plotting this as part of a conspiracy, he doesn't go to Western Union at 11:17 and show up 30 seconds before Oswald gets there. He's sitting waiting with everyone else. And he also, by the way, had another opportunity to do it 2 days earlier. So it just, it just doesn't ring true. But that's what I learned most about from the trial that I found to be the most fascinating.
Well, Dan, thanks for joining me today. Corcan presents Under Oath, and also check out your new book, Kennedy's Avenger. Always a pleasure to talk to you, and let's do it again soon.
Absolutely. Thanks so much for having me.